Big, square, soft, slow, and thirsty. If your thing is daddies, the 1988 Ford LTD Crown Victoria LX is your car. It gives you the feeling of a big man, giving you a big forearm hug and telling you that everything is going to be okay, just as long as you turn the lights off when you leave. Because if you don't, the Ford LTD becomes the official car of Dad's new job.
Oh, good! Good, there's lights on! Lights on and no one here, no one around. Oh, I love my new job as a dad. Just going around the house. Beautiful kitchen. Lighting it up for everybody. I love this new job that I have as a dad. I get to go around the whole house and just turn lights off. We have this little one here for you so you can see at night, but I guess that's pointless, but I love the job of putting in lights so I can go around the house and just turn the lights off. This is great. Oh, in this economy, let's go downstairs. Oh, good. You're all done playing. You're all done playing your video games, so you leave the lights on. You like that? Turn these lights off, but I guess this is just my life now. I turn off lights. That's my job as a dad. Oh, good. There's lights on in the laundry room. Good thing that's there, so I can just do your laundry for you. You leave lights on, and I get to do your laundry. I love being a dad.
LTD, Lando Top Discipline. LTD, Landlord Transportation Device. LTD, Lawyer Type Drip. LTD, Low Tech Delight. The car enthusiasts among you will recognize that this Ford carries both the names LTD and Crown Victoria. That's because this is during the transitional years of the Panther platform, which lasted from 1979 to 2012. That's 34 years. The story of the Crown Victoria begins with the Ford Galaxy, which became the Galaxy LTD, then just LTD. Then when the Panther platform arrived in 1978, LTD became LTD Crown Victoria, and then finally Crown Victoria, when the platform was restyled with the Aero style that most people want. So for the sake of this review, we're going to call this the LTD. Let's talk about details, and oh, there it is. You whore of an engine. The 5-point slow. You old pushrod 4 small block. Ugh, this thing. Can't get away from you. Ford used this engine from 1962 and continued into the 1990s. This was a decent small block engine in the 60s, but it went and it continued and it evolved, and you can get power out of these things. And they did a pretty good job of being economical during the emissions era of the mid-1970s. They hung on. But into the 1980s, as customers demanded more luxuries in their cars, you want air conditioning, you want brighter lights, you want your air conditioning to actually do something, you want power seats, you want a power antenna. All of this meant that Ford kept strapping more and more accessories onto an engine that really was only designed to run a generator. Not even an alternator. Alternator was fine. And the water pump. And at this point, people also wanted this thing to get decent miles per gallon. So this thing had a tiny little camshaft. Yes, in the 1980s, late 80s, the carburation went away. It has multi-port fuel injection, but it's like Sega CD and then 32X. And then you're just strapping stuff to an old console trying to keep it relevant. How much power is it making in 1988? 150 horsepower. 150 horsepower. To 5 liters and 270 pound-feet of torque. Yes, Ford small blocks, or the Windsor block, or the 5.0, if you get all the right internals and the right cam and GT40 heads and bigger fuel injectors, these things will make 300 horsepower. Now, there's a limit to these blocks. If you keep hopping them up, You begin to get stress fractures is at between like 400 and 450 horsepower. Maybe it's more than that. Yes, the Cobra blocks were better, but what you're looking at here is the economical version of that V8. It's just meant to cruise.
All right, merge time. There's the kickdown. 150 horsepower. When it was new. There's third gear. Here comes the 55-mile-an-hour call out. There it is, indicating. And there we are. And now for overdrive.
And it's matched to the Ford AOD 4-speed, which is Ford Automatic Overdrive. Now, the gear selection indicator doesn't really work on this column shift, not that it really matters with a Ford AOD. You can't override overdrive. It just selects automatically because it's an analog transmission. And you just have to guess what gear you're in, or you just get it close to drive and you're fine. And this is a heavy car. 3,700 pounds dry. This thing's nearly 2 tons. And you feel its weight in the handling. But again, this is from an era where if you bought a big car, you didn't expect it to handle. You expect it to be smooth and quiet. Oh, and it also doesn't have ABS, so this thing will lock up its wheels and just slide through intersections if you mess up, if you're not paying attention. LTD, losing traction daily. Take a look at the LTD next to an MR2. Both of these cars, they're so different, but both of these cars are from the same year, 1988. That's why I love the 80s so much. You have one car looking to the past, and you have the other car which looks to the future. Ford built a conservative car to carefully ease Nixon-loving parents from the 1970s into the 1980s with wide, soft seats, chrome-style buttons that they're used to, big, heavy switches that they can understand. Oh, this is a fancy car. Yes, here's a hood ornament from you. Soft brakes. Nothing jerky. One finger steering. Everything's nice and easy. We're going to make it you can understand it. Corners are scary. Be careful. This may be Grandma's last Christmas. And on the other side, you got the MR2, which is shooting full force into the 1980s. Pop-up headlights, an engine in the middle, deep bucket seats, action movie, pistol grip gear shifter, double cam engine with variable intake runners. Everything is sharp and cocaine focused. And I make this comparison because the LTD, in fact, has some technology that the futuristic MR2 doesn't, like a parking brake.
So yeah, this was an option that you had. Instead of just a clock, you had clock and date. It actually keeps track of the day. A trip meter, which is, since the mechanical trip meter is broken, I actually do have a digital trip meter I forgot about. Economy tells you how bad your instant miles per gallon are, or your average, which is 14.6, because we're not driving 55. And then the fuel is like how many gallons you've used since I don't know when. There's probably a reset button. That's probably what R means. But I just tend to just leave it alone because, like everything else electronic in this car, it's got just enough corrosion on it to make all the buttons hard to push.
I love how down here, it doesn't say Infinity, it doesn't say Sony, it just says premium sound.
Well, that's because that was an option, because there's speakers up in the dash, and so this has 6 speakers.
Ooh.
So this was some LX luxury package. Dual power seats, the velour.
Yeah.
The track lock axle.
I love the Grandma Piss yellow interior lights.
It probably wasn't that color. It's probably faded. But you have map lights.
This whole bit is metal. The map lights have little lenses on them to focus the light right in front of you. Mirror map light LTEO. Low. Oh shit.
Yeah, I think it had a dimmer.
There's a second set of bulbs in here.
I thought it would have just been a resistance switch, just to dim it.
No, they put 2 different bulbs in there. Ford LTD Crown Victoria Owner's Guide. Do they do the bit where they congratulate? This is like tracing paper.
It's very thin. But this one has all the booklets, the warranty booklet. I don't remember what the hell this is. Oh, your sound system.
Welcome. The Ford Motor Company welcomes you to its growing family of new vehicle owners. This guide will familiarize you with the operational, maintenance, and safety information about your new vehicle. It is supplemented by a warranty information booklet, a handy operating guide, and a maintenance schedule and record log. We urge you to read these publications carefully and follow the recommendations to help ensure your enjoyable and safe operation of your new vehicle. So they did not, this introduction would have been copied and pasted into each owner's manual because it doesn't specifically say the Ford LTD. The Ford Motor Company offers a great variety of options, components, and features of its numerous models. Therefore, the equipment described in this guide and the various illustration may not all be applicable to your particular vehicle. If you have any questions, always check with your dad.
You're not putting this whole thing in the movie.
All packaged for a driver who, in 1988, wasn't ready to admit that their world was passing them by. And for Ford, that year was 1 year away. 1 year after this 1988 LTD rolled off the assembly line, Toyota changed the world, the luxury car world at least, with the LS400. And American cars never truly matched Lexus, even today. So you have to kind of be in the right headspace to enjoy a Ford LTD, because it's sort of like a cool uncle who lets you take one sip of Coors Banquet, but won't let you have a cigarette because it's bad for you. This car is pleasant and sedate. And 70 miles an hour is about as fast as you want to go. You might be comfortable with 80 on a clear, dry, empty road, but it's going to struggle like a tongueless man eating box. Its heart is in the right place, but expecting performance isn't playing to its strength. This is a car whose value is stubbornness. As a consequence of its refusal to die, it becomes a perfect option for remember Wendy's who are resistant to change. In a way, the LTD is an unlockable bonus for the Malaise Era. I'm bringing up the Malaise Era, yes. In some ways, the Malaise Era, which we often talk about the mid-1970s, was still existing for the United States in the 1980s. This is still a Malaise Era car, even though it was getting kind of advanced on the inside. It has the buttoned-up dimensions of a dress shoe that looks good, but cuts up your heel. This V8 doesn't make the kind of numbers a V8 ought to, and it's perfect for being stuck in traffic on a long commute, because it's a car that assumes if you're driving it in 1988, you haven't started collecting Social Security, at least not yet. There is always debate over when the Malaise Era actually ended in the United States, whether it was in the early 80s when automotives figured out catalytic converters so they didn't hamper performance in the way that they did in the 70s, or whether it's later in this decade when the national speed limit was raised to 65 miles an hour. Either way, the LTD is a holdover from that boxy, gather your personal effects look of Malaise cars that didn't care much about aerodynamics as they did about looking like they belonged in municipal parking spaces. And also remember that GM was making the Fiero, even though it had a horrible engine that was still a futuristic-looking car. They started making that in '86. And of course, the F-body Camaros of the '80s, and of course, the Firebird existed at the same time at this car, and that was in freaking Knight Rider. The future and the Malaise Era in the United States was happening at the same time. And there was a market share for people in the United States who just wanted a couch for a car. Ford was like, you know what? They want body on frame. They want a live rear axle. They want a V8 engine. They don't care about power. They just want to roll along. Well, here you go. LTD. Now, I'm ignoring that the LTD is also a fleet vehicle. These things were police cars. These things were taxis. These things were car service. Ford made a lot of these for a lot of different applications. But Ford really didn't construct it with that suburban fatigue in mind. Remember, also in the 80s, Lee Iacocca invented the minivan for Chrysler. Chrysler was on its way back in the 80s. So the minivan was taking over suburbia. So what was Ford's plan? Well, Ford at least wanted to compete with the Chevy Caprice and the Pontiac Bonneville. They're not trying to compete with Chrysler. Chrysler was throwing everything they had at the minivan. But also the LTD was only going to be a placeholder strategy until the Ford Taurus was up and running. Now, the Taurus ultimately saved Ford in the 80s, but the LTD Crown Victoria wasn't exactly a huge failure either. After all, they had fleet sales to back up this car, and consumers still wanted full-size cars. And yes, fuel prices in the 70s started introducing small cars to the United States and Canada, but by the 1980s, well, fuel prices leveled out and people were willing to go back to the larger models they abandoned. So Ford kept the LTD Crown Victoria around and even gave it a bit of a facelift to be slightly more aerodynamic and more modern for its time. And this is also one of the last Panther bodies to have sealed beam headlights.
We'd also like to thank Vintage Diodes
for hooking us up with E-code lights for this thing. Real glass headlights with appropriate LED inserts. They are plug and play. There is a little adapter harness, but it's not like something you have to rewire. It just moves the polarity so these things work correctly. And they're not obnoxious LEDs that blind everybody. They just throw more light down the road and also in the correct color temperature. You don't have gross blue light that distracts from the style of the car. Even though there's a lot of hurried technology in this Ford, and it seems like it could be a mechanically stressful car, but it's hard to not look at an LTD and think of any number of forgotten childhood days that were so untethered from stress that you didn't bother savoring how easy life used to be. Remember when the most you had to worry about was losing a Saturday because you had to go visit a family member you didn't like?
Everybody get in! We're gonna go visit your Uncle Marvin and your Aunt Christy, and your cousin Marvin too.
And for some reason, it's always overcast when you get there, even though it was sunny when you left.
Okay, you can go in the playroom,
your aunt says, who also has the same voice for this joke. But all that's in there is a used coloring book, an Etch-a-Sketch that doesn't work, and a TV VHS combo with one tape. It's a VHS of Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. And you look at this miserable display like a general planning a war. This is what I have to work with. I have to make this work because the adults just broke out Canadian Club, Diet Coke, and Skip-Bo. And I know I'm in for a long night. That's what this car is about. A car for going to visit your cousin. Driven by a father who's grown a firm callous against the encroachment of time and all the ways in which it makes society unrecognizable. Dad doesn't like change, so he drives a Ford LTD. Because you can't make it better, you can't really make it any worse. And that's kind of the LTD's parlor trick. It's endearing specifically because it represents its cultural moment better than a lot of cars of its era. It isn't just represented as a cultural touchstone because the period it represented and the types of memories it generates aren't necessarily attractive ones. They're the less bombastic memories of everyday life and the almost sweet suffering of a lost Saturday. Lying on the edge of a couch, looking at the designs in the carpet, and trying to trace them with your mind into drawings of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or the Luck Dragon, or that ship from Flight of the Navigator. You're lying on the edge of a couch, looking at the floor. The tick of the living room clock blends in with KYW News Radio 1060, playing in the other room. Those moments that kind of sucked at the time, but have become precious because they represent a time when a crummy Saturday was the worst problem you had. When all your family was still present and accounted for. When an underpowered V8 pulled out of the driveway to carry you home on split bench seats. LTD. Look, there's Dad.